Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Thursday, August 6th. This is Gina Palma. We will continue to see very hot temperatures, and that will continue to increase through the weekend with dry weather nearly region-wide, at least for the next couple of days. Otherwise, dry and breezy winds will occur in parts of the north and western areas, and then lightning will be returning to the Great Basin from south to north through this weekend into next week. Otherwise, fire danger continues to increase through the weekend with most areas above the 90th to 97th percentile by this weekend. Otherwise, there could be some possible moderation of the fuels in the far south, which could push a little bit further north over this next week with the weak monsoon moisture push we have coming. Looking at our fire potential impacts, we will continue to have smoke across the area in all the areas we have been seeing it. And then the breezy winds today will occur across parts of the Sierra Front and western Nevada and across parts of Idaho and Wyoming and far northern Nevada and Utah the next few days. These winds won't be overly strong, but generally 20 to 30 mile per hour gusts with continued very dry relative humidity. Otherwise, lightning will start increasing from the south, maybe a little bit more than we saw yesterday. However, lightning does look fairly isolated through the next few days in the south and looks to increase a little bit more by the weekend. There are plenty of extreme heat warnings and heat advisories in effect from the National Weather Service through this weekend for this heat and air quality alerts in the north for the smoke. Otherwise, no precipitation. Really, in the last 24 hours, we did have one cluster of thunderstorms down in the far southern portion of the Arizona Strip, and that was the leading edge of these storms moving into the Great Basin. Otherwise, we really haven't had any precipitation in the last week. This precipitation was about 7 days ago in the eastern half of the region. Yesterday, we had 11 new fires reported for 168 acres with over 23,000 acres of growth on our large fires. And you can see our large fires here across the region with the new starts in red. Great Basin did move to PL5 this morning. Looking at our morning satellite, plenty of smoke across the area. Otherwise, cloud cover is minimal. You can see some cumulus buildups down south in the Arizona Strip and southern Nevada and southern Utah, which is this moisture starting to push north. Otherwise, no real change in our smoke conditions over the next couple of days. Fire danger continues to rise. Nearly all areas are above the 90th percentile, except for parts of the far south and eastern side of Utah, but those are on the rise, and some areas above the 97th percentile. And you can see really all areas will continue to increase here over the next several days, and we will start to see that fire danger come down as the moisture settles into the south, more likely by the weekend into next week. So looking at our weather pattern, we have high pressure dominating the region, which really will continue with these series of weak low pressure tracking across the north, kind of just north of the Great Basin, but it will act to flatten the ridge across the north. So that's what will kind of keep our winds a bit breezy in the north. And we will have to watch any of these weak disturbances if we have enough to produce any lightning across parts of Idaho this weekend. But otherwise, moisture will start to push north, but you can see it's very weak. So we are expecting pretty isolated coverage of thunderstorms and definitely on the drier side. So that's why we have our high risk in the south today and then gradually pushing north as we go towards Saturday, but really affecting mainly southern areas. Could see some storms develop Friday or Saturday along the Sierra Front, so do have some high risk there. And then we continue with the high risk across the north the next few days for either burn environment or for winds as these winds pick up a little bit. But again, most of those gusts in the 20 to 30 mile per hour range, maybe a few spots up to 35 miles per hour. Looking at the wind pattern here, you can see, again, those breezy winds kind of continue across the north, get a little bit stronger either Friday or Saturday, depending on area and parts of Idaho and Wyoming. And down south is really just indicating the gusty outflow winds from the thunderstorms. So even these high base showers that may not be producing lightning over the next couple of days could push out some pretty gusty outflow winds in southern Utah and southern Nevada. So again, we may not see lightning in all of these areas, but I'd be watching for the gusty outflow winds, again, due to the very dry conditions, low relative humidities in the single digits, and we could see some of that start to modify in the far south by the weekend. Here's a quick look at the precipitation. Again, pretty spotty, and temperatures will continue to be on the rise with really all valley locations over 100 degrees through the early part of this weekend. Here's a better look at some of the afternoon thunderstorm development. You can see it's pretty localized with respect to the size of the thunderstorm. So again, hit or miss with respect to any precipitation over the next couple of days, but we may have some better potential as we get later in the weekend or early next week. So looking at Sunday through Tuesday, no big change in the pattern with this high pressure just really settling over the southern half of the Great Basin with moisture continuing to creep a bit further north. So on Sunday, we do have our high risk for lightning that extends into parts of northeast Nevada and the northern Wasatch. So We'll continue to watch this. We could see these lightning areas change depending on the development of this moisture. Still some breezy areas in the north on Sunday, and you can start to see possibly the fuel starting to moderate in the far south by Sunday, and possibly more so Monday into Tuesday. But really, this moisture stays confined to the Arizona Strip, southern Nevada, and Utah, with continued moderate risk in drier conditions in much of Idaho and northern Nevada. The wind picture, the winds really get fairly light over the later portion of the weekend into next week, except for maybe the far north on Sunday. Otherwise, relative humidity will start to moderate a bit, so less single digits, more teens, but still dry, especially as you get into northern and western areas. Quick look at the precipitation going from Sunday through Tuesday. Again, the moisture tries to push north, but mainly confined to parts of Nevada and Utah, possibly into southern Idaho. And temperatures will remain hot again on Sunday and may drop a couple of degrees as we go into early next week, but still remaining hot and above normal. So quick look at the 3-day forecast here on the left and the 7-day forecast here on the right. So the better chances of wetting rains will be closer to the end of the weekend into next week, and mainly affecting the Arizona Strip and parts of southern Utah, but still will be very spotty and nothing near what we saw with our last push of monsoon moisture. You can see the moisture kind of trickled across the north. So again, we will be watching for any weak disturbances that give us some thunderstorm activity, but otherwise dry conditions. Quick recap of our 7-day. We have high risk for burn environment and wind for those breezy winds and very dry conditions across the north the next few days, and then the lightning creeping north ever so slowly as we go through this week, and then a little bit more so later in the weekend. And we'll continue to monitor Monday and the early part of next week for any high risk of lightning, depending on how things develop. Otherwise, the 6 to 10-day outlook showing above normal temperatures. We'll watch this moisture surge. I'm not sure it will be as significant as this map indicates, but it will be pushing into parts of the Great Basin. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.